Chapter 2 Blockchain. I'm so sorry for being late, Mason. I had a little car accident on the way. Nothing too bad, and it should be okay because he admitted it was his fault and he's insured.
So you're not hurt, and your car is okay to drive still. Have a seat.
I'm fine. He wants to pay me directly, which is easier for both of us. But I'm worried that without the insurance company, if something goes wrong, I might have a problem. He seems honest, but I can't just trust him.
Whether we're lending someone something or transferring money, we all need trust. And if you can't trust each other, you need to find a third party that you both trust.
You're right, but let's forget about this. I want to talk more about blockchain.
We are talking about blockchain. I'll make that clear in a moment. So what is it about using a third party that this man doesn't like?
Lots of things. It increases the cost, takes longer, they might refuse to deal with them, and insurance companies get to make up and change the rules.
Well, here's a suggestion. Imagine an insurance company, but instead of people following all the rules required to process a claim, all of those rules were processed by a computer. No staff at all, and everything done automatically.
That would be great. It would be much faster, and I'd know they were treating me properly, instead of trying to bend the rules to their advantage. But no, I would be worried that it would get hacked and someone else would get my payout, or the database might forget all my payments. You have to have someone to watch over it.
Do you remember what we talked about last time? A blockchain is like a database distributed across many computers, and it can't be corrupted or hacked. The computers form a network with no central authority.
Unless more than 50% of people try to hack it altogether. I remember. You said it was like a book with lots of pages in it. A blockchain made of blocks. I got the idea, but I don't actually get how it works. How does that verification stamp work? I think you called it a hash.
That's a good question, and I can explain it with a little story about passing notes. So Alice wrote a note to Bob and wanted to be certain that nobody had changed any words while it was being passed to him.
Okay, like a love note being passed across a classroom?
Sure. So when Alice finishes her note, she counts all of the words in her note and counts all of the M's used in the note. Then Alice multiplies the word count by the number of M's. Then she writes that number at the bottom of her note.
Does her boyfriend Bob know this code?
Yes, he does. And he can check the number by multiplying the word count and the number of M's just like Alice did.
That's a great idea. Because if the number Bob calculates is the same, he is sure the note has not been changed by anyone passing it along.
Exactly. Let's give that number they calculate a name. We'll call it a hash.
I've got an idea. What if Bob did more than calculate the hash when he sends back his answering note? What if he added the hash from Alice's note to his new hash? Then Alice would know that Bob's note was never changed and that her note got to him without being changed.
You're brilliant, Isabella. That's exactly how a blockchain works. Each block has a hash in it that includes the hash from the previous block, just like adding the old hash into the new hash. But of course, it uses more complex calculations.
Are the calculations complex so that nobody passing the note can figure out their secret code?
No, it isn't even a secret code. Everyone passing the note knows the code. It is complicated so that the number it creates is long and unpredictable. You can't change the information in any way that gives you the same hash that the correct information generated. And the block also contains extras, like its number in the chain and the exact time it was created.
But what stops someone just making up a new note with a changed message, then doing the calculation to make their hash and sending that instead?
Okay, the note metaphor is starting to break down now. So let's just talk about blockchain. The computers supporting a blockchain don't just pass on the block, they get the same information that was used to create the block. Then they create an identical block by doing the same calculation. If they get the same hash, they pass on the information to the next computer. So it is like each computer votes on trusting the next block in the blockchain by using its own processing power. To make a fake block, you need to be able to do the calculation faster than more than half of the computers on the network.
Like the 51% attack you were talking about. But it isn't really 51% of computers that's required. It's 51% of the processing power of all the computers on that network.
Exactly. And that's another reason why the mathematics need to be complicated. It needs to take much longer to do the first time than it does to check it by everyone else on the network. But some blockchains use other ways of proving your vote counts, like having to hold some of the value in the blockchain. But all blockchains rely on the longest chain being the correct one, because the length of the chain is really the total votes used to create it, and the more votes, the more trust.
They've thought of everything. But wait, if processing power is valuable, why would anyone waste it on being first to calculate a block? Wouldn't it be better to be one of the ones that checks the block?
The people who make their computers do the work to calculate a block get rewarded for their efforts. One of the calculation rules allows them to create some extra cryptocurrency and send it to themselves. But that calculation will only be accepted if they give themselves the permitted amount.
Hang on, I thought the calculations required to make a new block were determined by rules. Why doesn't the fastest computer always calculate the next block the fastest?
You're really getting this now, aren't you? I think you would do very well as a cryptocurrency engineer. If the only thing to calculate was the transaction information, the one computer that is fastest would always win. But here is the trick. Every block also includes a special random number. Each number, when added into the calculation, always makes the resulting hash completely different. And one of the rules to accept a correctly calculated block is that the hash must start with a minimum number of zeros. So, you have to try many random numbers before finding one that gives you an acceptable hash.
And then when the winner passes along the information used to calculate the winning block, this random number that made the hash acceptable is included?
Yes, it is. It's called a nonce. And that is what makes it take much longer to calculate a new block than to check it and pass it on. Q&A section. Question 1. What prevents existing blocks in the blockchain being edited? A. Only the block creator knows the formula for creating each block. B. Each block has a number in order of creation and has a timestamp, so it would be detected. C. The edited block would have a hash that makes a wrong hash in the following block. D. Only registered and authorized computers can create or change blocks.
I'm certain it's C. The hash is like the numbers written on the notes.
Correct. And each block incorporates the hash from the previous block when calculating the next hash. Question 2. If a computer creates a block with false calculations in it and sends it out, what happens to it? A. The computers receiving the new block wait for it to be authorized. B. The computers receiving the new block correct the calculations before accepting it. C. The computers receiving the new block accept it, knowing that the next hash will prove it is wrong. D. The computers receiving the new block will find it doesn't match their own calculations and ignore it.
Well, there is authority to authorize blocks, and the next hash won't help. So it has to be D, doesn't it?
Yes, D is correct. Some blockchains might also require the computer to send out a signal warning about the node the bad block came from, but all it really has to do is not vote for it by refusing to send it out to other computers. Question 3. What does the nonce do in each block? A. It makes computers do a lot more work finding a hash with enough zeros at the start. B. It proves that the computer that discovered an acceptable one did lots of calculations. C. It provides a number which can be sent with transaction data to verify calculations. D. All of the above.
D, because all of those answers are true.
Great work! Without a nonce and the requirement for it to generate a hash starting with a minimum number of zeros, some other method of proving a lot of work was done to calculate a block would be required. Or relying on something other than lots of processing work to create a new block would have to be agreed upon.